Hello, welcome, and well met. It's WR Frady here, and I'd like to welcome you back to another installment where we're working on the map of Loren. Today, I know that recently we've been working on filling in some of the mountains. So today I want to invite you along with me to fill in the Morningstar Mountains and even hear some of the lore behind how the Morningstar Mountains played a key role into building the rest of this map. So, before I get started, I want to state all credits to the music in the background go to Celtic Traveler, who are the artists. I love to have fantasy background music playing when I am writing or working on my maps, world building, as it not only sets the mood, but it also creates the atmosphere that is completely rich in building for the specific tales and stuff that I want to do. I would like to get Alderune up and running. I got some stuff I got to do with that before I can bring it up. But I would like to bring Alderune in and take you along with me as we work on that one day. But we'll do that in another episode. For now, though, like I said, all music credits go to Celtic Traveler and the music that's playing on Spotify in the background. And without further ado, I'm going to flip you around here and let you see what's going on and kind of give you a quick update. As you can see, the mountains are filling in very nicely. I've got the Shadowgate Mountains, the Black Mountains, the Demon Spine Mountains, all the way up here into the northern lands, coming together real nice. But today, our focus is right here. Now, our focus is going to be the Morningstar Mountains. Excuse me. All right, let's get you put in place. All right. Now, the Morningstar Mountains, as I was saying just a few moments ago, is key in how this map actually came together. Now, granted, the Morningstar Mountains was not a part of Balador originally, but came into play later. I mean, it is one of the original mountains ranges, and it's the first mountain range that was named on the continent of Loren. Now, that being said, what originally began what would become eventually Loren was, just make sure you can see where I'm working. Okay, good. Just wanted to touch base on that. Now, the original, what became Loren, came from a challenge about a quest, about writing a quest many years ago for my mom. So it was one of those things that I was always fascinated with, building fantasy worlds and fantasy lands. Even when I was in my gothic horror phase, when I was heavy into gothic horror, and still am. I'm just, my tastes, my fantasies and stuff like that, and so had matured over the years to where I am not as narrow-minded as I once was. If you could actually believe that I was actually once a very narrow-minded person and what my interests were, it's not a way to go, I can promise you that. Anyway, that not being important, except for just the lesson that was learned, and we all learn wonderful lessons like that with life over time. However, the Morningstar Mountains was what gave rise to even the name Balador, which is the name of the setting. And so, it all began with a story that opened with Stormwolf trudged along the Morningstar Mountains heading toward Balador. Now, there is a story that I have written. I need to finish transcribing it and getting it posted up. But there is a story called Stormwolf and the Abandoned Outpost that details that very line and actually tells the story about Stormwolf trudging through the Morningstar Mountains. And it plays not only a key role in the development. See, Ballador is down this way, which I'll show you where Ballador is in relation to the Morningstar Mountains. But Stormwolf was from up in this area. I don't know if you can see it. Yes, you can see. Stormwolf was from up in this area, which is the frozen wastes of Valhalla. And he was on a quest down across the Morningstar Mountains to Ballador to fulfill his calling in a great quest that was where he was being summoned by the Aldodorn, but he had to go here to meet someone before he could go up to meet Aldodorn, which will come up later when I start getting the stories and everything compiled for the actual quest that one of the quests that all this is being built for. The Morningstar Mountains were key in that. There's also, in the Morningstar Mountains, hidden amongst the Morningstar Mountains, is the hidden lost veil of the unicorns. It's called Unicorn Valley. The Unicorn Valley is a fabled realm that cannot be accessed except for by the most prestigious of rangers, elves, and even the fae folk, or the fairy folk as I call them. So you don't just have a random place that anybody can just stumble upon, because the Unicorn Valley is a sacred valley where the unicorns migrate. And it is a magical realm. But that is also hidden here within the Morningstar Mountains. It protects the Unicorn Valley, that enchantment protects the Unicorn Valley from the incursion of orcs, mountain boggarts, and other foul creatures that might desecrate the unicorn's lands. It's a lush and colorful valley that inside looks much, much larger than what you would appear on the outside. Oh, look at this. We're already making good headway through the Morningstar Mountains. See, I love the fact that this cool gray highlights these mountains just right to give them that rocky granite type of indigenous look, or of igneous look. And then look at that, gives them that real rocky edge look, and that is something that just cannot be undone. Let's see, I'm looking at that. I need to see. I know exactly what that is. That is exactly what I thought it needs to be done. So I'm going to go over here, and we're going to pull up, and we're going to add that color right there. All right. Look at that. Look at those Morningstar Mountains. Look at how they turned out. See I left these right here, these white peaks for snow caps. So you see the snow-capped mountains. I did that with a lot of these. And I love the fact that they're random and they're not everywhere. And so that really builds. You know, one of the ones we're going to do, just to do a little bit something different, is I'm going to reach down here and do Drakenholm. The Drakenholm is the home of the dragons. It is where the dragons, the elves, the dwarves all came together for one purpose. And they worked together to build this mountain that would be purely home to the dragons. Now, I would be lying to say that the lonely mountain of Middle Earth, Erebor and them did not have any influence on this. It does. Except at the same time, this is also its own unique, as it is a dragon realm. It is not it is not a realm that is like this. This right here is a great peak that goes, like, if you think of like the Matterhorn or some of the great peaks that go way up into the air like a fang, that's exactly what Drakenholm is. Except it's got what would be considered it's got what's would be considered a mine or something like that as the interior. So it's been hollowed out, carved, chiseled, and engraved, embossed. All this with the work of the elves, with the work of the magic of elves and dwarves and dragons combined to build this intricate underground city that is the home of the dragons. It's also the home of where the dragon slayers began. And in the history of Loren, in the history of Areth, the dragons have the nemesis known as the worms. Worms are they're like dragons, except they were spawned by Areth and Sparaxis, who gave rise to these immense, ancient, dragon-like beings. They were meant to be the bane of the dragons and wipe the dragons out. And that's alongside the evil dragons. So, you've got the worms and then these evil dragons that have come against the real dragons. So, the Dragon King reached out to his people and told them to select the top knights and the top people who were worthy and bring them to Drakenholm to be trained in how to slay their own kind. So, given special armor and dragon slayer swords, the dragon slayers of Loren and of Balador and of Areth are like the elite of warriors. And just like there's good dragon slayers, there are evil dragon slayers, as they too got corrupted by the dark dragons and the power of Areth. So you've got these dragon slayer families. So not just anybody can be dragon slayers. You had the select, but now their family lineage. And these are the elites of the elites. So one of the first challenges of the dragon slayers was to liberate the empires of their time, of what was known as the Decane and the Circle of Nine. The Decane were these lich-like evil wizards, this council of evil wizards that forbade magic in all the lands because they wanted no one to be able to rise up against them. So they literally promoted ignorance so that they could keep everybody underfoot and keep anyone from rising up against them. And it was a dark time for the continent of Loren, a very dark time. And it was a time when the undead were unchecked, unruled. It was a time when plagues and horrible raids from orcs and goblins and boggarts and other foul creatures of the night. You'll hear Renarian storytellers whisper about it around dark campfires while watching over their shoulder for foul things, because this was a time that Loren felt the eternal It felt like Loren was trapped in a time of eternal night, not literally, but the darkness that was upon the land and thing. It felt like there would be no sunrise for the darkness. And so the dragon slayers, when they were brought about, one of their first quests was to liberate Loren from the Circle of Nine and the Darkani. So, and the Darkani is still very much a working term. So this is still stuff that's under development, but is written in my histories of Balador, which spans right now is about midway and into 10,000 years of history of being written. So, anyway, let's get back to doing this, and we'll talk more about it, which I'm enjoying in sharing and talking with you, because I like drawing you into this world to where perhaps you want to hear more and know more about it. If you do, hit that subscribe button, hit some notifications, and that way when I put up new videos, be it shorts or new videos, you can be notified and not miss a single episode of how this is playing out. Anyway, let's flip you back around and do a little bit more before I sign off. All right. Now, as I was saying, here's Drakenholm. Now, this is the Lorella Mountains. The Lorella Mountains will not have the snow caps, except for maybe on occasion, because if you're familiar with the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina, which is really borderline to my home, then you'll know that there is really not any snow caps here. Actually, the only snow caps in America, you had to go to, quite literally, you had to go to the Rockies on the western side of the U.S., which is fine. But these old mountains here, it adds a little bit more variety. So you might see in the Lorella Mountains, even though these look rocky and such, matter of fact, we're going to do a little bit of different to these just because of that. Let me grab this. Alright. I'm going to add a little bit more depth here just because these are different mountains. There we go. Now, in the Lorella Mountains, you'll find that there is a waterfall, actually right here, that is known as Dragon Maw Cascades. Dragon Maw Cascades, because that's the Dragon Tears River right here, but the Dragon Maw Cascades dates back to when the first Dragon King, Immoralis, was confronted. Look at that now. See how that made that stand out just a little bit? Matter of fact, we're going to do a little bit of that with Drakenholm right quick. Anyway, just add some shading in here, just to give that a little more oomph. There we go. And then got that just right here. There we go. Anyway, let's flip it up and let you take a look at that. And I may do that with some of the other mountains up through here. But I'll do that once I add in the names and naming schemes. But anyway, back to what I was saying. The story of the Lorella Mountains and the Dragon Maw Cascades is that when Sparaxis, the demon lord, and the supreme evil of of Areth was trying to conquer the entirety of the continent of Loren with his giants, orcs, goblins, and all his monster kind, and such. The Dragon King rose up to challenge him, and naturally, when you have a dragon that faces a demon god, the demon god basically has a lot more power. So despite the efforts that Emiralis had in trying to save the continent of Loren, he was fatally wounded by Sparaxis. He was trying to make it back to his homeland when he crashed. Now, this time, Drakenholm would not been established as this. This is the first epic. So this is long before Drakenholm. But he was trying to flee from Sparaxis, but his wounds finally caught up with him, and he crashed in the Lorella Mountains. As he fell and gave his last breath, the tears from his eyes fell into the river, into the valley below. At that same moment, the land accepted Emeralis's form, and he became a living monument, or basically a monument to that fatal wound. So the mountains and the lands grew over top of him. Eventually, a spring welled up and came out of him. So and this water formed and became like a waterfall coming out of Emeralis's mouth. So between that and where the tears fell, the Dragon Tears River began. So where Emiralis crashed became the headwaters and the source of what would be the Dragon Tears River. But the waterfall, when you see it, you will distinctively see the face of a dragon and the water coming out of its mouth. And that is the Dragon Maw Cascades, which is why it's also called the Dragon Maw Cascades, and the Dragon Tears being the Dragon Tear River that leads out from it. Again, it goes back to where everything I create has in its own self its own story for why it exists and explains its place in the world. So life sprung from the death of Emiralis, therefore creating something good in the wake of something tragic. So again, as these things unfold, as these stories, legends, and lore unfold, I enjoy getting to share them and take you on that journey. And as I go, I will be posting up more about it on my own website, which is theevanstonetower.com, which, if you go check it, yes, drastically needs to be updated. Being the only one who does what I do in this, I'm kind of torn in time. But anyway, so there's a lot that I do need to catch up on and do, but hang tight with me. It will happen, and when time does come, I might be able to get a hold of some decent allies and such that might be able to help me manage other things. But that takes time. Everything has to take time to grow, and the best things do grow with time anyway, including this world. This world is an ongoing, just to be honest, it will probably be a lifelong project, not just in the creation, but in the constant growing and evolution of it. Even though the stories will come out, this world is ever living and ever evolving. So even as I build it in the histories, I see these histories unfold, and then they take and form, the stories will form the new histories that shape the future, and so forth. So the world is ever growing, ever changing, and with that allows for the whole to become something that is always moving forward and flowing. And there's times I may have to go back, and as new lands come into being, that I may have to go back and revert histories to rewrite those histories to fit those places coming in, like for the continent of Gelinor, for Drakenstad, the island of the Dragon's Death, and for the island of Igraine, and for the Cloud City of Miralon and Savaltanora, the Cloud Castle. There are so much more that is added on, and so much more that can and will be. It has its own fairy tales. When I get the stuff I need to do the cosmology, I will do the cosmology. As far as I've got the spiritual cosmology, words, let me get those. But I've got the spiritual cosmology, like the known planes and realms and stuff that is native to my world. But I've also got, and in development, I've got I've got Imperia, the endless sea. Is it the endless sea at night? It's the endless night. I'll look it up. Because right now it's just my mind's drawing a blank, and I'm trying to cover so much in such a time. But I might even make a short, kind of recover that. But anyway, you've got, and I've got the creation of that done. But then you've got all the constellations and the stars and what the constellations are, where they are, what's their significance. And so I've got all of that that's also all in store and in writing. And like, I may post some videos and stuff up, but to show like the Rose of Morgana, or is it notes? Morgana's Rose. Then you've got the Maiden of the Stars. You've got trying to remember the timepiece, but there's so many more. There are so many more constellations and things that when you look into the night sky of Loren or Gelinor, and when you're looking into the night sky, depending on where you are, you will see these certain constellations. So it's bringing that added bit of realism to the world itself. Anyway, that being said, I think I have been on here long enough. I have got more I've got to get done. I enjoyed having you join me in this. Thank you for joining me in my journey, and I will talk to you again soon. And to everyone out there who is offering their support and being a part of this journey, I appreciate you, and I truly cannot wait to fully be able to share the entirety of this world and all its stories, all its developments and everything with you. And I hope that one day when I get to meet you, you can say, I was with you when you first started this, and I have followed this journey all the way. So I look forward to that. Anyway, I will talk to you soon. Have a good day, and be safe.